Welcome back to another episode of the Good Brothers. I'm Alex. That's Mike. We are the Good Brothers, the bestest of brothers. We are your highwaymen from New York to LA, talking all things pop culture. Say hi to the folks, Mike.
Hi, folks. My good brother. How are you doing? Happy weekend, my friend.
Everything is everything, as your old saying used to be. It's going good. You know, this rain is a little intense. I didn't love a certain show we're going to talk about this week's episode, but overall, can't complain.
You are correct, my friend. Everything is everything. And on this edition of the Good Brothers, we got a bunch of things we need to get into. Loki has episode 3 in the books. We need to discuss it. Did you like it? Did you hate it? You already know that we are going to dissect all of that. Halloween Kills is returning to theaters. Even after all this COVID stuff, we are still going to see Mike Myers make some mayhem this Halloween season. An abomination was seen during the Shang-Chi trailer, and so much more. But we lead off today's episode of the Good Brothers by talking about the big news in the MCU. Not just that we saw a dragon and abomination, but we had ourselves another episode of Loki, episode 3. And this one has been polarizing, good brother. Initially, when the series came out, the first 2 episodes hit such a banger. And now with this episode, it seems like a lot of people's goodwill towards it has diminished so fast. Your thoughts on why it seems like it's not getting the benefit of the doubt, and your thoughts about episode 3 in general.
Man, I can just tell you, for some reason, it just didn't hit. And it's one of those moments where you can't even be specific. I texted you, and we have that old saying of like, I didn't like any of that. That old Family Guy, Back to the Future joke. So for me, it was one of those where I was like, I really didn't know. I knew during it. I'm watching, I'm like, man, it's slugging along a little bit. I'm not loving a lot of it. There are parts I did like. I think Tom Hiddleston's always great. Like, that's never going to change. I do like, the him coming out moment officially in a month like this. I think that's super important. I do love that aspect. It looked fantastic. The visuals look good. And a nice little Easter eggs in there. Maybe he has an Infinity Stone or not. Little stuff like that was fine. Overall, how long this episode was, it might have been one of my least favorite of all the Marvel shows episodes, including WandaVision, which I wasn't a fan of. There was a lot of episodes that I preferred over this one because at least with those, you knew they were shorter. I felt this was 55 minutes of a side quest that we really didn't need to see. And all you keep hearing is, oh, episode after this is when it turns really crazy. I don't like setups for what could be. I feel like that's a waste of an episode, especially since we're only getting 6 of these. But overall, I didn't think it was the worst thing ever, but I really didn't enjoy it as much as I really wanted to. And I think it did lose a little goodwill with a lot of people out there.
I think you hit on a bunch of good points. I think for me, the big thing about this episode is besides the moment where we find out about their sexuality, which, again, it's kind of a throwaway line, is another thing that's a throwaway line in this episode, and that is about the time variance, the TVC themselves, the way that they're all variants. It's that, and it was just thrown there as they're running. So the whole episode essentially is about nothing. There is no consequences. There is no character growth. There's a great shout out movie of another. Like, that is a great moment in the episode. Visually, it looks great in Lament 1 when you're seeing the moon and the planet hit each other, and when you're seeing the spaceship get hit. But I think at the end of it, the big problem too is most people understand that the series doesn't end in this episode. So
it's a filler.
It's a filler. And I know a lot of people, I had this argument with one of my friends at the radio station. It's like, why? Because there wasn't enough action. I'm like, no, that's the problem. It was all action with no consequences. Mm-hmm. Because I believe that this all leads to somebody has been enchanted, that she either enchanted Loki or Loki has tricked her. It's one of the two. Because neither one of these characters has died in episode 3 of the series. And I can't judge anything. We've talked about this from WandaVision, and we talked about this in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I can't judge you on what the next episode might be. I can't judge you on what the future goals of the MCU is. I can only judge you on the puzzle pieces you've given me. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that in time we're able to judge these movies and the way it's all connected. But right now, I can only talk about what I saw. And like you said, Tom Hiddleston always is going to knock it out of the park. He's a fantastic actor. I like Lady Loki. I think she's charming. Well, I know a lot of people may have some that feel like they don't have chemistry. I actually think they have wonderful chemistry, and there was like some very interesting ways they could have turned this. But we didn't learn anything in this episode. If you missed episode 3, I truly believe this, and I'm not somebody who says this very often. You could go straight to episode 4. knowing as long as who the variants are, you go to episode 4. And I tweeted out over at Mike and Media to the Good Brother at Mercado 21 Alex, and we talked about it on the show on the Twitter account at Good Brothers Pod that we were kind of half right about Mobius. I thought he was definitely a variant, maybe even a Loki variant. But now, and mind you, we're taking Lady Loki in face value that she's telling the truth. But I think that's kind of where they're going to. And we just saw that we were kind of right, but it was so anticlimactic. Yeah. That should have been a big moment. So I think they dropped the ball on what should have been a very special moment. And they combined it with another special moment of being open about being bisexual for both these characters.
And I think I like those moments. I'm with you. Those 3 or 4 little moments they sprinkle out are perfect. But you still need to give me substance in between because those only last 2 minutes. I compare that coming out scene to the Schitt's Creek one for those Schitt's Creek fans out there. Sure. It's subtle. They don't hit it over the head, but you get the message across with a simple wine metaphor. And I appreciate the show for doing that too. But like you said, there has to be stuff in the middle of that. And it can't just be nonsense action, which I felt we got, which was cool. I love Tom Hiddleston's fighting style when he does Loki because it's very dagger and quick. I love the train, but it didn't really make any sense to me. It really didn't go anywhere that I wanted it to go. And I'm asking, it's like WandaVision sometimes. I don't want to have 10 more questions. 1 or 2 would be fine. Having 10 more questions, I can only judge off what I saw this week, and I didn't love it. I didn't even really like it. I thought it was very much okay with really good little moments sprinkled in.
Finally, I think what we learned more than anything is how important and Owen Wilson is to this series, how important his chemistry with, Tom Hiddleston and just the charm that you get from his character. And it's 100% true that you're bringing up that it felt like a filler episode, but a little bit of Owen Wilson here and there when we're talking about them being time variants. And you have him looking at the water ski thing again, the jet ski thing, like those kind of things adding up, make it mean a little bit more, put a little bit of meat. For an example, the reason why we see this as a filler episode, the old lady who shoots the sonic boom at them, that scene is only there, so she could tell them the direction to go to and so we can have a laugh? That's it? It's pointless. So that's my thoughts. I do think they could get it back on track. I don't think this is the worst episode of television I've ever seen. The expectations are high, and that's what happens when you are a entity that we all believe in, that we all are invested in, and we've seen good product from you. I do think episode 4 has all the potential because it's still episode 1 and episode 2 show it. Could be great, but you have to be fair when it comes to being critical. We're fans for a reason. We enjoy it. We watch it. We're invested in it. But we also call a spade a spade. It wasn't the greatest thing. There were things to like. And if you loved it, that's amazing. Good brother. You know what we did love? The Halloween trailer. Let's talk about that for a second. It was an amazing trailer. This is a movie that's been pushed back. It's finally on its release date this Halloween season, 2021, post the pandemic that everything happened. The new trailer, an actual trailer came out, and we saw ourselves a wonderful way of how they're getting themselves out of how Michael Myers left off in the Halloween reboot. Your thoughts as we are getting ourselves one of the most famous slashers back in theaters.
I loved it. It was one of my favorite trailers to come out this year, honestly. I do understand where people are like, you gave away a lot. There's 2 reasons for that, and I think that's what we're here to kind of tell you why they have to give away a lot. One, he does die in the first one. So you have to already come out saying, hey, how is he alive? Because he's alive, obviously. We have a movie. Mm-hmm. Another reason they have to show quite a bit is because this is an It situation where there's 2 films filmed back to back. We're going to get this one. And then the part 2 of this version, like they did in Harry Potter and Twilight, next year. So I think it is, you did see a lot, but there's still so much more you're going to see. It's also a horror slasher, which I know we don't have a ton nowadays. Like a lot of it is the reboots one we've had from the 90s and the 80s. You kind of already know what's going to happen. They have to hunt him down. I do like the new twist of no, the town's in on it now, and that's fun. And that's where it saves it. If it was just the 3 of them after him again, and they showed us this much, I'm upset. It's the fact that you're going to get a different type of Halloween film, and they're kind of rebirthing themselves again after they've done it 4 or 5 times to be like, okay, now the town is on board. Now we've acknowledged, he exists. He's evil. He's evil incarnated. He's only going to get stronger. Some kind of mythical way he's getting stronger and more deadly and more feared. Okay, now the town is smart enough to be like, wait, no, this is an issue. We need to settle this. And I like that they're not treating us like idiots, because I'll be an idiot in a horror slasher film and be like, okay, There's tropes we need to go through. This movie seems like they're going to throw away some of those tropes and get us something brand new in the horror franchise. And that's interesting.
It's totally interesting because they are doing something a little bit different. Like you could talk about the thorn symbol and like that they've always tried to make this mystical thing about Michael. But the idea of, and the way I interpret it was, you're looking at a serial killer that has now this fandom, and you and I knowing how much people love true crime, it almost is making this new figure out of anything. It's kind of like in the Dark Knight Returns, where you have the Joker gang and people just live off of the fame and the infamy of it. So Michael Myers, maybe the idea of this movie would be like, maybe there's an army of Michael Myers followers and disciples. And like, that could be something interesting to explore. This idea of a small town going after this, the old fairy tale, right? Of like the werewolf or the monster in the woods and all the henchmen. You'll get it. So like, I like that they're incorporating that to this movie and that you're having, what I didn't want to see was, Laurie Strode going crazy or like the family going nuts and that they're actually killers. Like, no, let's
or her or something. Like they still don't believe her. The town doesn't believe them, even though he's been on, we saw him go on a killing spree twice now. And now in the modern society where like, okay, people can talk to each other much more simple. You in the 80s, you can get away with that. All very limited communication. You can see this stuff getting buried. This movie came out in 2019. Like, we don't want to fall into that trope again. So I'm with you. I'm super excited. I think it's going to be a blast. And I'm interested to see how it ends to lead to the next one. Because I think you're right. I think we're going to get some sort of cult of Michael Myers type of thing where he does have a following. And they sprinkled that breadcrumb in there with the modern Loomis, if you will. And the last film with the doctor, kind of like there are people that are smart and crazy enough to believe in this hype of Michael Myers. So I think you hit it on the head there where we're going to get a twist somewhere there of like, okay, maybe he does have a little bit of a following / army. Are we thinking kind of like this town's got to go head to head with them? And who can you trust?
And knowing that there is going to be a third part to this trilogy, like it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out and what they're willing to do to kind of just bring it all together in this and to see this new way of making this legend and how scary it can be and just going in different places. I'm excited for Halloween. You know what else I'm excited for, good brother? Shang-Chi. That new trailer dropped and my goodness, Abomination may be in the movie, but it sure wasn't an abomination when it came to that trailer. There's a freaking water dragon. Your thoughts on the new Marvel movie that will be hitting theaters after Black Widow?
I'll keep it short since I know nothing about Shang-Chi. Like, it just wasn't in our wheelhouse growing up as comic book lovers, superhero lovers. So I'm so interested because, like, this is one of those where I, like The Boys or Invincible, I want to watch it and then deep dive into, like, oh, who is this guy? Like, this guy seems way better than Iron Fist, and Iron Fist was really dumb. So I'm excited. I thought the trailer was sick. Everything in it, I'm like, wow, that looks amazing. Like, so many different things. I want to know how these 10 rings work. I want to know what this water dragon's doing. Why is there this Mortal Kombat cage fight going on with Wong and Abomination? I'm going into it blind, just with the trailer. I don't want to look it up. I don't want to go to Variant or Comic Books Explained and learn about him. I want to learn about him in the MCU because I feel like this is where we're going to really get his coming out. Kind of like a Harley Quinn for the animated. Like, that's where it started, not the comics. I think Shang-Chi is really going to hit a new level on the big screen compared to the comics. And I want to be a part of that and really jump on that, like, first before I deep dive to the book, or the comics.
That is so well put. It is that we don't know much about him personally. Like I know there's fans of his character, but it is that awesomeness of like this movie. What is this movie? Like there's so much craziness in it and there's so much, tying together. And for an origin movie, the father-son dynamic looks interesting. The powers look interesting. The costumes look interesting. It does. When a Marvel origin film hits, this is what it looks like when it comes to the hype. And I think that's what's exciting about it.
I do love Awkwafina too. I think she'll be like a Kat Dennings.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge Kat Dennings fan. I don't know why I love Two Broke Girls. It makes me laugh in the mornings, honestly. And I think it's because of her quick banter. She's kind of made a career out of that. I'm interested. Awkwafina, I think, is even more talented as a comedian. And to have her in the MCU like this after her big Rhea and the Lost Dragons, this is really cool to see her in that Disney family now, because I think she's another big name, and they just keep piling on big names and piling on big names. That's not even including Black Widow adding Florence Pugh and the Eternals adding every single actor that we love in Hollywood.
And, you know, it's a great way. They're putting over Shang-Chi. Like, they're putting it super over in this movie.
It feels like a Black Panther. We're like, no, he's going to change, and like, we'll look at him and he'll be front and center of Avengers movies coming out.
Yep.
So it's very much like, no, this isn't an origin of like, okay, he's there. Like, no, he's going to be a main character. He's going to be a big part of the MCU now, of the new version we're getting on Earth. Because obviously there's always the cosmic stuff going on. Right. But what's going on Earth, I think he's going to have a huge deal to do with that now. And maybe we get a Thunderbolt spinoff out of this, because now we're getting Abomination back. And She-Hulk's going to have a lot of these characters.
It's going to be interesting. Shout out to Brady, who has his opinions, because he is hyped for Shang-Chi and Halloween Kills. But we have one more trailer to talk about Good Brother on this edition of the Good Brothers here on Mercado Airwaves, your highwayman between LA and New York City for all things pop culture. And that is The Suicide Squad. This trailer came out a few days ago. And nobody brings out wonderful, chaotic energy like James Gunn. Say what you will about bad old tweets, but damn it if the man does not know how to make a wonderful, feel-good trailer and movie, and he has energy, and people just love what he brings to the table. Your thoughts on this movie that, quite frankly, might be saving whatever little thing that they're working on. This might be the basis of this new foundation of the DC movies, that is The Suicide Squad.
I think this will be people's favorite movie of the year when it's all said and done. As pure pop culture, I think this will be the best DCEU movie. And I truly believe this might be James Gunn's best movie. I'm going to put all three of those out there. These trailers are perfect, and it's scary when you get a perfect movie, but man, like James Gunn like delivers on those. I'm so excited. Like, this is my most anticipated movie. The way they introduce Idris Elba into this, I mean, I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm going to put it out there. I think it'll be the highest grossing movie of the year. I think it'll be a lot of those things. It'll be the number one, a lot of number ones. It's going to do a lot of damage. And I think it's really going to show you, man, this Suicide Squad, like, this is what the first one should have been.
How many Suicide Squad main characters make it out of this movie that are on the promotion? I think the Weasel actually survives, to be honest with you. I think they make it seem like it's going to die, but I actually think Weasel survives all the way. I do think, what's our boy's name that I'm always a little iffy on? Pete Davidson? I think Pete Davidson dies. I think he dies. I think Idris Elba dies.
No, I don't think Idris Elba dies. I think you keep him because you want him and Will Smith in the next one.
Unless it's to get him and Will Smith together. You're right.
By the trailers, who's going to live, and there's a couple red herrings, and who's going to die. Like, Polka Dot Man's going to live. I think King Shark has to live. I think there's going to be a core like 6 or 7 that stay to add on to the other 3 or 4 we didn't get in this film from the last one, and then we'll get our super team of, okay, now we got to go against the Justice League or whatever.
I guess that's the way I put it too, right? Is who's in the video game, right? Like, I was going to say maybe Jai Courtney, but like, they're not going to get rid of Captain Boomerang. Like, that's just not going to happen. Who is Brady's favorite character from the Suicide Squad, Good Brother?
Boomerang Man.
Okay, so
he's Boomerang himself.
Okay, Good Brother. I think that is it though for us on this edition of the Good Brothers. It was a trailer heavy edition. It was a review edition of Loki. Some fun stuff happening in our MCU and DC universe. Is there anything coming up that you kind of want to, we got 4th of July coming up next week. So there's going to be some WWE NXT stuff that we're going to go over. Are we counting Great American Bash as a pay-per-view?
I don't know. We're going to have to talk about that because our specials, pay-per-views or other specials. And I feel like maybe it should count or maybe it won't. Change. Wrestling has changed. And like, we're about to see a new renaissance of wrestling and we're about to hit a new era. And I'm really excited actually for both AEW, WWE and NXT, because now with live audiences, they've had some stuff packed up like the movies. It's going to be an whole new level. It's going to be a whole new genre of wrestling. And I'm excited about that, even though we did get more cuts recently. And that's sad, but, it's part of the business. And if we just came out here and talked about that every time, we'd have a very different show.
And, a lot of this talent, they'll eventually get right and they'll find homes. And wrestling is a family, dude. It all goes in circles. We all know that guys will come and go and they'll all end up back working. So you just hope that they land on their feet. But we'll definitely be dissecting the next NXT show. We'll just see if it's for the Undisputed Championship picks. But with that, good brother, I think that's it for this edition of the Good Brothers. With that, you guys can follow us all over the universe. The Good Brother is on Twitter at Mercado21Alex and on Instagram, Mercado2121. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media. Be interactive with the show. You can check out our reviews, our opinions, and just some silliness all over the universe on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. Like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. There, you can also listen to the Two Birds of a Feather podcast. You could check out the Gone Missing podcast. And, of course, Sports for the Couch, which is now on Roku. That is right. We have partnered with the great people of the Rewind Sports 60. So make sure you guys are checking us out over there as well. Patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Check out the video version of the podcast. See these handsome, beautiful men on YouTube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network and on Facebook, Facebook.com/Mercado Airwaves. For the one, the only, the good brother himself. What are the last words?
Free Brittney.
Free. We stand for Brittney here on the Good Brother.
It's Brittney, bitch. Like, we're definitely marks for Britney Spears. We had the posters up in our room. For real, though, if you're looking into this case, there's podcasts out there, there's documentaries.
Yeah.
It is fascinating stuff. I'm so glad it's finally, like, you and me have been looking into this for like 7 years now.
Yeah.
Like, again, we're nerds about this stuff. And we love a good podcast. So to finally see it getting the mainstream attention, like not just the TMZ, but like the super mainstream, the CNNs and the Fox Newses, man, maybe we'll finally get some justice for our girl.
And we'll see who goes down in a bunch of flames because of what this was. Man, the entertainment business is a crazy one, good brother. We're the one, the only, the good brother himself, Alex Mercado. I'm the good brother, Mike Mercado. We will see you next time here on the Good Brothers on the Mercado Airwaves
Network.